So we're starting with Christopher Nolan,
And he's here
Oh, I thought we were talking
calming down some velociraptors.
right? Sorry, audio listeners.
So Chris Nolan said some things about streaming that I thought were interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes, in this
He
article.
said some wild things, didn't he?
I don't know that they were wild.
Which just to give you listeners I don't know if exact what he goes into yet in this article, but I was doing some research beforehand on this same topic, and so I do think I have some extra to add to this because
cool.
He said one thing initially, and then he had another interview where he clarified himself and elaborated more on the topic. So let's see what he had to say first, and then see if it's the same thing I already found.
Okay.
So in this article, I don't know if you have it up on your screen. It says he expressed his worries about things only exist in the streaming universe and then get taken down. Believes that the accessibility of filmmakers' work is something that deserves the utmost protection, but is something at severe risk when there is a filmmaker's film just sort of disappearing from streaming one day. And then maybe not coming back. He says, okay, so I'm going to read this quote, the whole thing, or at least the first paragraph, and then we can talk about it. There is a danger these days that if things only exist in streaming version, they do get taken down. They come and go, as do broadcast versions of films. So my films will play on HBO or whatever. They'll come and go, but the home video version is the thing that can always be there. So people can always access it. And since the 1980s, as filmmakers, we've taken that for granted. And since the 1980s, as filmmakers, we've taken that for granted. And now we have to make sure that there's a way that can continue to happen, if not the physical, if not the physical media.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is actually, I believe, the same quote that I have the recording from. So I have him saying this, but it's the same thing. Initially, in an interview before this, he called the streaming services like taken down by the evil streaming services. And it was a joke, and so that got a lot of buzz. And then he did this interview where he clarified himself a little bit, and because that was just a passing comment. And here's him explaining the situation. I have been thinking about this for a few days now. And at first, I'm not really sure how to land, but I know Christopher Nolan's onto something. I think go ahead.
Back in before Wyatt even jumped on the podcast, and that was a while. Because Wyatt's been on for a long time. I remember we recorded an episode, and I don't even remember what the episode was called. I can't recommend the episode because I don't remember. But I said, this is my reason for buying DVD copies of things rather than watching it on streaming. And now I don't do this as much these days because I don't go out and buy all the DVD copies of everything. But I bought so many DVD copies of a movie because I said, with a streaming service, people go on a Friday night, oh, this movie's on Netflix, let's watch it. They watch it once and they never watch it again because it's on a streaming service. Because it was easy access to just watch it once. If you buy a physical copy of something, even if you don't watch it all the time, you have it. You paid the money for it, and
you're very likely to watch it more than once.
If it was good, if it was something you enjoyed, then it was worth paying that money for because you want to watch it again. You want to support them to make something like it again. Yeah. But it is begged to question, like, nowadays with all the stuff that they're coming out with, they're trying to fast pace things. They're making movies, not putting as much effort into movies. Maybe they deserve to be on streaming services rather than a DVD.
Oh yeah, and here's the thing, that if somebody makes a movie and it's terrible, but it's only released on streaming services, they can kind of just let people forget about that. Where's the new Indiana Jones movie? right?
Who knows?
Mhm.
I have hard copies of 2 of the movies here. But if there's no hard copies, that movie can just disappear.
Right.
And you know, out of sight, out of mind sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You may be like, I saw this movie years ago, but I don't think I can find it again, and you may never be able to find it again.
Yeah, and we saw with, Final Space and movies like Batgirl that were completely filmed or
Mm,
already released, and then they get pulled down or just chosen not to be released because they operate more effective business-wise as a
mhm.
tax write-off than they do as being available for the public to consume, and
Yeah.
that's a catastrophe for the creators. I mean, it's destroyed people like Olin Rogers to see his work for like the past 6 years just being disappearing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Unless you bought the DVD or Blu-ray of Final Space, you just don't have it. There's
Yeah.
not it's not there. And so but there's a cultural conversation and debate somewhat around the idea of streaming that Chris Nolan's bringing up.
Mhm.
The first issue I think that arises when we're talking about hard copies is accessibility to a player is being phased out. First of all, so
Yeah.
your access to watch a DVD or a Blu-ray, which Blu-ray is better. Let's keep it in that conversation because it has the ability. It's protected. Whereas if you get a scratch on a DVD, you've ruined your piece of art anyway. So DVDs do not have staying power, even the same way that VHSs have staying power.
Mhm.
Um, Blu-rays do though because they're protected and you can fit a better image on it. So let's keep it in Blu-ray conversation. So
Yeah.
the access to players is still available, but going down quickly, right?
Mhm.
In the same way that DVD copies are going down very quickly because of streaming. Now they could have a comeback in the same way that vinyl records have made a comeback, but it's going to have to be a choice in culture. So first off,
W
even if you
Well,
have
the
a hard
VHS already
copy,
are. Have you heard about the people
yeah,
buying
yeah,
up
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
VHS
yeah.
copies?
Yes, I have heard of that, but it's almost silly to talk about that because it's not a better viewing experience for the art. Blu-ray is in the same way that people like vinyls because they like the way they sound and there is something high quality about them. But a VHS copy is not the same as uh, as watching a Blu-ray. It's not nostalgic there. I mean, it's nostalgic, but it's not a experience.
Mm.
So the Blu-ray copy is an experience, but the access to players is going down. So you can own a piece of art like Oppenheimer, like what Chris Nolan's talking about here, but not have access to the thing to consume it on. And that's a
Mhm.
real problem. And it could be because you can get a player, but at a certain point, that player is going to die. And then you have to get another player. And what if they don't have those players anymore?
Mhm.
It still eliminates your ability to watch the piece of
Well, I'm
content.
I'm I'm gonna say this. Uh, in our lifetime, I don't think there's any point where there's no access to the player of what you have. You can go
I
The
think
to
that is a
movie?
any.
wild thing to say.
That
Hold
is a
on.
wild thing to say, but I
It is.
agree with
It
Wyatt.
is. But you can go to any thrift store or pawn shop and pick up a VHS player that works, and it plugs in, and it's fine. Or a DVD player, or a Blu-ray player, or most people have an Xbox or a PlayStation that will play Blu-ray DVDs and movies. Um, I don't think the player is an issue with this. I think the issue is um, the streaming thing is like it will disappear if
Yeah.
that's the only place it's released. If it's released, if there's a DVD version, if there's a, I guess basically just if there's a DVD or Blu-ray version, there you can watch it. You can
Okay,
watch
but
it.
Mhm.
by the same logic though, once it disappears, you can buy the Blu-ray off of a website that still sells them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And or off eBay or something. And so you haven't lost access to something necessarily. And the other issue I think this brings up is the novelty idea of a halt in innovation in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Blu-rays are the future for keeping a form of media art. Now, for the longest time, paintings, people value art. We'll hang them up in our houses. We own art. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that we should own cinema art as well. But I don't think a DVD or Blu-ray or VHS or anything like that is the way to own it for this time. It's not future-proofing this art in the same way that like an actual physical thing you put on the wall is. And so I think that we need to come up with more innovative ideas where Chris Nolan's just like, go buy my Blu-ray. I would be more interested to see him come up with some ideas of how people can appreciate his art in this new futuristic world we're living in. And that's not streaming. That's not being controlled by anyone, that you actually own it.
No.
Some way you can get a hard copy. Yeah.
A hard copy, but we have to have a new experience. That doesn't rely on, I don't know, the internet access to watch it. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm curious to see what that looks like. But in my opinion, I don't think any of the mediums we've used in hard copy to watch films up to this point are the answer for future-proofing this genre of art anyway.
Yeah.
And we've come up with ideas like the Boomy, and that could be a storage system. And they already have storage systems in somewhat.
Yeah, but still, a storage system can get fried.
You're right. It absolutely can. But you can also break a Blu-ray in half.
Yeah, but we're talking a difference between an EMP and something you do with your hands.
No, not if it's like uploaded on the internet or something like that. Then
Well, we need to be removed from the internet. So
we're talking about two different forms of things where it's like, you know, a DVD, something you can hold in your hand. If there's no internet access, you can still watch the movie.
Yeah.
You just if you have something that is storing your movies with circuitry or whatever, it's going to get fried with like an EMP blast.
It could. And after thinking about this for a while.
Okay.
I think we need to look back to move to the future. Okay? So hear me out. I think we need to find a way. I think we need to find a way for future-proofing this art genre. I think we have to do something that is similar to film reels, but is a new technology that has the high-quality experience.
See, I'm more interested in how do we watch it.
That's what I'm saying. Look, the player, right? So the film reels always use the projector. We have to have a new experience. So I think in some way, especially getting into the virtual world space, I think we need to have something that's not based around discs or microchips. I think we need to have a physical reel of some sort that can play easily. And the player is going to have to be something that's durable, that can stand the test of time, that is actually going to stick with the world. And maybe it's like, I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on it, but I feel like there has to be some kind of projector technology that's in this new world that can view these things. Because the only way to really keep this art is get rid of digital and let's make it back organic. You know what I'm saying? In the same way that a painting on a wall is organic. We need to make this art form organic, and the only way it's been organic is film reels.
Yeah. I don't know what the next step is for camera technology. I definitely think it has something to do with something analog would have to let light in,
right,
to do something. I don't know that it's, burn the film anymore. It's got to be something new that we come up with. But yeah, a new way to sort of preserve that kind of stuff that doesn't rely on electricity, technology, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was interested to see what he had to say.
With this in mind, do you think we're going to move past the idea of streaming, or it's just not going to be as popular as it is right now
No,
in the future?
I think
People
we're
like
I think we're
streaming.
actually gonna continue with this what we're doing, streaming and Blu-ray stuff
Yeah.
for a long time.
You think we're
yeah,
going to keep
it's
Blu-ray
going
for a
to be.
long time?
I think we're in sort of a time now that we've hit a like a stalemate. We've hit a lull. We're gonna be here for a minute because there's no innovation on either side.
There's
No.
lack of money. Everyone's just trying to make their Netflix film or their
Well,
Disney
I
Plus
guess
show, and it's all trash.
yeah, I know this is a little bit not in the same boat. It is, but I guess this is the best time to announce, be looking for us in 2025. We're starting a drive-in movie theater.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit. That would be super fun.
A drive-in movie theater, you have to buy a plot of land to park your car.
But it
And you
wouldn't
have to
take
buy
as
a
much
big
to
old
finish.
sheet.
Yeah, that's what you need, but that's really all you need. You wouldn't need
stellar sound system or the equipment to get it inside the cars.
Well, yeah, I mean, every drive-in I've ever been to, more recently, is they're like, just turn to this radio station.
Yes,
to hear the audio,
which is fine, and that's probably relatively simple technology, especially since you only have to cover the radius of that field or whatever it is. Do you think the drive-in movie theaters are coming back?
Oh yeah.
I think drive-in movie. I think the most important thing for a drive-in movie theater is your location. Your location is key,
and your vehicle.
Make it well worth people coming and doing it. So we were talking about this with John Mark, and John Mark is like, you don't even have to do like concessions, but what you could do is contact a couple food trucks, and just say, hey, come park your food truck right on my land. The food truck makes their money, so you don't have to pay them anything, but you also appease your customers.
That doesn't make sense. That's backwards thinking, because concessions are like 70 to 80% of how theaters make their money.
Well, you get some of whatever they make.
Oh, okay.
No,
maybe
they're not going to share their revenue with you.
If they're parking for free on your land, getting to sell as much food as they want to moviegoers, then yeah, I think, or you charge them a flat rate. You come park here, and I make this much for that however long you're there. That because you need to be making money somehow.
Yeah, you definitely need to make money somehow, which I do feel like the drive-in movie theater business model is not a very good one. So we'd have to really have revolutionary thinking if we're going to do this. I mean, real revolutionary thinking.
I also think some sort of small concession stand is doable. People like corn dogs. People like nachos.
Hey, corn dog? No, we need like that nice Mexican,
No.
taco or something.
Let the taco trucks take care of that. Let them take care of that. Sometimes,
but you charge like $8 for a corn dog. Heck yeah, you make bank on some corn dogs.
$4 for a corn dog.
How are we gonna make money?
A corn dog's not that expensive. $4 for a corn dog.
How big of a plot of land do we need? An acre? 2 acres?
2.
I don't know. I think it's fairly significant. I think an acre and a half at least.
Dude, we're paying a minimum of $200,000 for an acre and a half anywhere near the city of Atlanta.
I think we get anywhere it for near about 100.
Nope. And
I think we have to. Again, it is that property. It is where you are.
Yes,
and I think one of the best places.
You got to be seen.
One of the best places would be on 16 somewhere.
Interstate?
No. We're talking about down here.
It's a road that it travels a pretty significant distance through Georgia, and it's a busy road.
Right. Look, I'm just saying that's a great idea, and location's important, and the busiest you have means it's good for business, which means we got to make money to pay for this plot of land we're investing in. So you gotta charge $8 for a corn dog.
I'm not charging $8 for a corn dog.
We're gonna have to. We gotta pay off this loan.
No, not $8 for a corn dog.